The studio lights burn white-hot against the mahogany debate podiums as 23 million Americans lean forward in their living rooms. CNN's flagship debate stage stretches before two women who couldn't be more different: Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, her natural hair framing determined eyes, and Chelsea Clinton, perfectly coiffed in designer navy, radiating the confidence of inherited power. Moderator Jake Tapper shuffles his notes, unaware he's about to witness political history. The red recording lights blink steadily as social media chatter hums at normal levels. Twitter mentions hover around 12,000 per minute. Everything feels routine, predictable, safe. Then Jasmine leans into her microphone. "Chelsea, before we discuss your foundation's future initiatives, I have one simple question." Her voice cuts through the studio's artificial calm like a blade through silk. "Will you finally admit to funneling $82 million into shadow accounts tied to foreign donors?" The words land like a thunderclap. Silence. Pure, suffocating silence. Chelsea's porcelain composure cracks. Her mouth opens slightly, closes, then opens again. No sound emerges. The woman who has fielded hostile questions from world leaders sits frozen, caught in high-definition horror. Tapper's pen slips from his fingers, clattering against his desk with a sound that echoes through the dead air. Camera operators instinctively zoom closer, capturing every micro-expression of shock rippling across Chelsea's face. Her campaign manager, visible in the green room monitor, drops his coffee cup. In living rooms across America, viewers grab their phones. Twitter mentions spike to 47,000 per minute in 30 seconds. Chelsea. Exposed begins trending before the moderator even remembers how to breathe. The studio audience, 200 carefully selected voters representing middle. The America sits motionless. A woman in the third row covers her mouth with both hands. A veteran in the front row leans forward, eyes wide with disbelief. Chelsea's media-trained smile finally returns, but it's too late. Millions have seen behind the curtain. The perfectly practiced politician has been replaced by something raw, something vulnerable, something human. Her hand trembles slightly as she reaches for her water glass. Tapper clears his throat, desperately trying to regain control of his broadcast, but the damage is done. This isn't just another political debate anymore. This is a reckoning 20 years in the making. Jasmine Crockett climbs to number 2, trending worldwide. But no one could have guessed how Chelsea would respond when all eyes turned to her. 6 months ago, it started as whispers in Washington coffee shops. Investigative journalists noticed discrepancies in Clinton Foundation filings. Numbers that didn't add up. Donations from shell companies with untraceable origins. Financial reporters began asking uncomfortable questions that went unanswered. The whispers became murmurs. Then the murmurs became headlines. Clinton Foundation under new scrutiny ran across Bloomberg's front page in March. By April, the Wall Street Journal had dedicated an entire investigative team to following the money trail. ProPublica's deep dive revealed a labyrinth of offshore accounts, each transaction expertly designed to obscure its ultimate destination. But $82 million is too much money to hide forever. The number represents more than just missing funds. It represents the college educations of 3,000 students who relied on foundation scholarships. It represents clean water projects in Honduras that were promised but never delivered. It represents HIV medication for 12,000 patients in sub-Saharan Africa who waited for treatments that never arrived. More devastating still, it represents the faith of 6 million Americans who donated their hard-earned dollars, trusting the Clinton name to deliver hope to the hopeless. Maria Gonzalez, a school teacher from Phoenix, sent $50 every month for 3 years. She believed her contributions were funding literacy programs in Guatemala, connecting to her own family's roots. When the scandal broke, tears streamed down her face during her CNN interview. "I trusted them with my children's lunch money," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I trusted them with my dreams." Across America, similar stories emerged. Small-dollar donors who sacrificed for causes they believed in, only to discover their generosity had vanished into the same type of shadowy financial networks they thought they were fighting against. The Clinton legacy, built over 3 decades of public service, suddenly stood on shifting sand. Hillary's 2016 campaign had weathered email controversies and foreign donation questions. Bill had survived impeachment and post-presidency speaking fee scandals, but this felt different. this cut deeper, this threatened everything. Media coverage intensified with each passing week. Anderson Cooper's special investigation drew 18 million viewers. Rachel Maddow's nightly coverage became appointment television for progressive audiences hungry for answers. Even traditionally Clinton-friendly outlets like MSNBC began asking harder questions. The foundation's board members started distancing themselves. Major Democratic donors quietly suspended contributions. Chelsea's own political aspirations, once considered inevitable, suddenly seemed impossible. By the time tonight's debate was scheduled, Washington insiders were placing private bets on whether Chelsea would even show up. Her campaign had been hemorrhaging staff for weeks. 3 senior advisors resigned in a single day last Tuesday, citing strategic differences that everyone understood as code for abandoning a sinking ship. The stakes couldn't be higher. A political dynasty that held. Ad survived countless scandals now faced its greatest test, not from Republican opponents or foreign adversaries, but from the truth itself. What happens next has the power to irreversibly rewrite a family's public legacy, transforming decades of political capital into a cautionary tale about power, privilege, and the price of betraying public trust. But when Jasmine rose to speak, she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was standing for every American who's been let down by power. Chelsea Victoria Clinton entered the world with cameras flashing and a Secret Service detail. Born into America's most scrutinized political family, she learned to smile for photographers before she could tie her shoes. Stanford University, Oxford Rhodes Scholar, Columbia graduate degree, her resume reads like a trophy case designed to intimidate ordinary mortals. At 12 years old, she stood beside her father on the White House lawn, already mastering the art of deflecting difficult questions with practiced charm. By 18, she was fielding interview requests from Barbara Walters. At 25, she commanded 6-figure speaking fees for graduation ceremonies, where she dispensed wisdom about perseverance to students drowning in debt. The world watched her transform from awkward teenager to polished political royalty, each public appearance more carefully choreographed than the last. Designer gowns replaced childhood freckles, media training erased spontaneous laughter. The genuine 12-year-old girl disappeared behind layers of public relations perfection. But perfection, as America would learn, is often just well-funded camouflage. The Clinton Foundation became Chelsea's kingdom in 2013. She promised transparency, accountability, and results that would honor her family's commitment to global justice. The annual reports featured glossy photographs of smiling children in developing nations, statistics highlighting lives saved, and Chelsea herself, radiating maternal warmth as she embraced grateful recipients of Clinton largesse. Behind the marketing materials, however, different stories emerged. Foundation employees began whispering about lavish expenses charged to charity accounts, 5-star hotels in war-torn regions where Foundation workers supposedly lived in modest accommodations, private jet flights for humanitarian missions that coincidentally aligned with Clinton family vacation schedules, 7-figure consulting contracts awarded to firms with mysterious connections to Clinton political allies. When reporters pressed for details, Chelsea's responses became masterclasses in sophisticated evasion. "Our financial disclosures exceed legal requirements," became her standard deflection. "Every dollar is carefully tracked and independently audited," she would insist, while simultaneously refusing to release the tracking documents or identify the independent auditors. The pattern repeated across multiple interviews. Softball questions from friendly journalists received warm, quotable answers. Hardball questions from investigative reporters met carefully constructed non-responses that sounded substantial but revealed nothing. Minutes correspondent Leslie Stahl left a 2019 interview visibly frustrated. "I asked 12 direct questions and received 0 direct answers," she told her producer off-camera, unaware her microphone was still recording. "It's like interviewing a very polished hologram." Social media noticed. #Chelsea Double Talk began trending after particularly evasive television appearances. Twitter users created drinking games around her verbal gymnastics. TikTok teenagers performed satirical reenactments of her interview style, complete with exaggerated hand gestures and meaningless buzzwords. Late-night comedians found comedy gold in Chelsea's peculiar ability to speak extensively while saying nothing. Stephen Colbert's impression became legendary. "Thank you for that important T question. which underscores our commitment to the transparency that defines our dedication to the accountability that drives our mission. Audience laughter grew louder with each performance, but the jokes carried sharp edges. Saturday Night Live's Kate McKinnon perfected Chelsea's serene smile paired with complete content avoidance. "Our foundation's impact speaks for itself," McKinnon would declare while literally speaking for herself, her voice rising with manufactured conviction. "And by speaking for itself, I mean I will speak for it without actually saying anything specific." The humor masked growing public skepticism. Chelsea's approval ratings, once buoyed by sympathy for her unique childhood circumstances, began sliding as voters questioned whether decades of privilege had produced a leader or simply another entitled politician wrapped in humanitarian rhetoric. Behind closed doors, Democratic operatives expressed private concerns about Chelsea's political future. "She has all the disadvantages of the Clinton name with none of the natural political instincts," one longtime party strategist confided to Politico. "Bill could charm his way out of anything. Hillary fought through everything. Chelsea just deflects." Inside the Clinton circle, rumors persist that this isn't the first time something big has been swept under the rug, protected by layers of legal expertise and public relations machinery that money can buy. Tonight, Chelsea faces a reckoning in front of an audience that refuses to look away. The electricity was shut off again. 7-year-old Jasmine Crockett did her homework by candlelight in their South Dallas apartment, her grandmother reading Bible verses aloud to distract from the rumbling of empty stomachs. Outside, sirens wailed through nights where gunshots punctuated lullabies, and inside, 3 generations of women crowded into 2-bedroom me's, sharing dreams that seemed impossibly distant. Her grandmother, May Louise, cleaned office buildings downtown for 37 years, taking young Jasmine along during school breaks. While May scrubbed marble floors in gleaming corporate lobbies, Jasmine watched through floor-to-ceiling windows as men in expensive suits made decisions that shaped lives like hers. "Baby girl," May would whisper, "someday you gonna sit at those tables instead of cleaning around them." Those words became prophecy, but the path demanded everything. High school meant working nights at a local diner to help with rent, studying between serving tables to customers who sometimes left dollar tips and racial slurs in equal measure. Her guidance counselor suggested community college. "Be realistic about your options," he said, sliding brochures across his desk like consolation prizes. Jasmine took the brochures and applied to every 4-year university in Texas anyway. Southern Methodist University offered a partial scholarship. Partial meant loans. Loans meant debt that would shadow her for decades, but it also meant possibility. College brought new battles, professors who mispronounced her name despite repeated corrections, study groups that somehow never included her, classmates who assumed she was there through special programs rather than the 4.0 GPA she maintained while working 20 hours weekly at the campus library. When she graduated summa cum laude, her family filled an entire row, their tears mixing pride with disbelief that someone like them had conquered something so far from their world. Law school at University of Houston stretched those financial struggles into breaking points. Jasmine survived on ramen noodles and determination, studying case law until 3 a.m. before opening shifts at a legal aid clinic. She watched wealthy classmates complain about their summer internship stipends while she chose between textbooks and rossaries. But those clinic experiences changed everything. She met Maria Santos, an immigrant mother facing deportation despite 20 years of paying taxes and raising American children. She saw James Williams, a veteran denied disability benefits after losing his leg in Iraq. She held the hand of Dorothy Jefferson, an elderly woman whose pension vanished when corporate executives looted her company's retirement fund. Their stories became her fuel. After passing the bar exam, prestigious firms courted her with signing bonuses that could have erased her student loans overnight. Instead, she chose public defense work, representing clients who reminded her of her younger self, people society had written off, fighting systems designed to ignore them. The cases that broke her heart taught her to fight harder. Teenagers prosecuted as adults for crimes that affluent kids would handle in family court. Mothers imprisoned for drug possession while pharmaceutical executives who created the opioid crisis collected bonuses. Working families bankrupted by medical bills while insurance company CEOs bought third homes. Each injustice sharpened her resolve. Her first campaign for Texas legislature ran on a shoestring budget and grassroots passion. Volunteers included former clients, childhood friends, and elderly church ladies who remembered her grandmother. They knocked on doors in neighborhoods that political consultants usually ignored, registering voters who had never believed their voices mattered. Election night brought victory and tears. Jasmine's acceptance speech, delivered in the same community center where she'd done homework by candlelight, became viral inspiration. "This isn't about me," she declared, her voice strong despite the emotion. "This is about every child who's been told to be realistic about their dreams, every family who's been forgotten by folks who were supposed to represent them, every person who's been written off by systems that only serve the already powerful." Congress came next, another uphill battle against better-funded opponents and entrenched interests. But Jasmine had learned something growing up poor that money can't teach: how to fight when you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Her congressional office reflects those values. No marble floors or mahogany furniture. Instead, photos of constituents cover every wall. Families she's helped, veterans she's advocated for, students whose college dreams she's made possible. Her staff includes former public defenders, community organizers, and immigrants who understand what it means to fight for belonging. During floor debates, Jasmine's voice carries the weight of every struggle she's witnessed. When she speaks about healthcare, she remembers her grandmother rationing insulin. When she discusses education funding, she sees herself studying by candlelight. When she challenges financial corruption, she thinks of Dorothy Jefferson and countless others whose trust was betrayed by people who had never known hunger. As Chelsea prepares to counter, Jasmine brings the weight of every injustice she's witnessed to this moment. But Jasmine's next revelation would force even her biggest doubters to listen. Chelsea's smile returns, but it's brittle glass threatening to shatter. Her media training kicks in like muscle memory, years of damage control coursing through her veins. "Jasmine, I appreciate your passion, but these baseless accusations—" "Baseless?" Jasmine's voice cuts through Chelsea's practiced deflection like a surgeon's blade. "Are you calling the State Department's own financial disclosure reports baseless? Are you calling your foundation's tax filings baseless?" The live polling tracker at the bottom of CNN's screen begins shifting. Chelsea's favorability drops from 52% to 48% in real time. Jasmine's climbs from 41% to 47%. The numbers dance across America's television. Cyan screens like a political seismograph measuring an earthquake in progress. "The Clinton Foundation has helped millions of people worldwide," Chelsea responds, her voice rising slightly. "We've provided clean water to—" $82 million, Chelsea. Jasmine leans forward, her dark eyes locked on target. "That's not helping people. That's helping yourself." In chat rooms across the internet, reactions explode in real time. Reddit's political discussion thread crashes from traffic volume. Facebook Live comments stream so fast they blur into digital waterfalls of outrage and support. "Receipt, please" begins trending as viewers demand proof. Moderator Jake Tapper attempts to regain control, raising his hand like a traffic cop. "Ladies, if we could return to the prepared questions," but both women ignore him completely. This has transcended structured debate into something primal, something honest, something television audiences rarely witness. Chelsea's composure cracks further. "You're grandstanding, Congresswoman. You're using this platform to spread conspiracy theories that have been debunked by—" "By whom?" Jasmine's interruption carries the force of 20 years fighting for answers that powerful people preferred to hide. "Debunked by the same accountants your foundation pays? The same lawyers your family employs?" The camera captures micro-expressions that reveal everything. Chelsea's jaw tightens. Her left eye develops a barely perceptible twitch. Her hands, previously folded calmly on the podium, begin gripping its edges until her knuckles show white against her pale skin. Live polling continues its dramatic shift. Chelsea, 44%. Jasmine, 51%. The crossover moment sends producers scrambling in control rooms nationwide. In the studio audience, mouths hang open. An elderly black woman in the third row nods slowly, recognition sparking in her eyes. A young Tina college student pulls out her phone to capture this moment for posterity. Two union representatives from Michigan lean toward each other, whispering urgently, The whispers ripple through the hall like wind through wheat, creating an audible undercurrent that the television microphones can't quite eliminate but can't ignore. Jasmine, Chelsea says, her voice now carrying an edge of desperation disguised as authority. These attacks on my family's charitable work are exactly the kind of divisive politics that Americans are tired of. Americans are tired of being lied to. Jasmine's response lands with thunderclap finality. They're tired of watching their donations disappear while you wear $1,000 dresses to charity galas. Chelsea's carefully constructed facade begins crumbling in high definition. Her breathing becomes slightly labored. Sweat threatens her makeup despite the studio's aggressive air conditioning. This isn't going according to any script her handlers prepared. Jake Tapper makes one final attempt at moderation. If we could please return to substantive policy discussions. This is substantive, Jasmine declares, her voice carrying the moral authority of someone who has never forgotten where she came from. $82 million in missing charity funds is the most substantive issue facing American trust in institutions. The live polls show Jasmine pulling ahead by 12 points. Social media mentions hit unprecedented levels. Cable news producers across 3 networks simultaneously decide to extend coverage. When Jasmine produced the documents, the fate of the debate and Chelsea's legacy tipped on a knife's edge. Jasmine reaches beneath her podium and produces a manila folder thick with documents. The simple gesture sends shockwaves through the studio. This isn't spontaneous political theater anymore. This is premeditated truth-telling. Chelsea, I have copies of wire transfer records from Cayman National Bank dated March 15th through September 22nd of last year. Jasmine's voice remains steady. Surgical in its precision. She opens the folder with deliberate calm. $82.7 million transferred from Clinton Foundation accounts to Meridian Holdings, LLC. The silence stretches like a held breath across 23 million living rooms. Chelsea's face transforms in slow motion. The practiced smile dissolves completely. Her eyes widen with the dawning horror of someone watching their life's work crumble in real time. Color drains from her cheeks despite the studio's harsh lighting. That company doesn't... Chelsea stammers, her media training abandoning her precisely when she needs it most. Jasmine turns a page with theatrical timing worthy of Perry Mason. Meridian Holdings, LLC, registered in Delaware, controlled by Riverside Capital Management. Would you like to guess who sits on Riverside's board of directors? The camera zooms tighter on Chelsea's face. Viewers can practically see the calculations happening behind her eyes. How much does Jasmine know? How deep does this evidence go? What other documents are in that folder? Social media erupts in real time. #Chelsea. Exposed reaches 2.3 million mentions in under 60 seconds. Twitter's trending algorithm can barely keep pace. TikTok users create instant reaction videos, their shocked faces mirroring the studio audience's disbelief. Collapse begins trending worldwide. Reddit's politics forum crashes again. Facebook groups dedicated to Clinton family politics experience comment floods that overwhelm their moderators. Instagram stories featuring screenshots of Jasmine's evidence spread like wildfire through networks of progressive activists who finally have the receipts they've been demanding. Your husband, Mark Mezvinsky, serves on Riverside's advisory board, Jasmine continues, her voice gaining momentum like an avalanche, along with your former campaign manager, David Brock. And 3 senior executives from Goldman Sachs who donated a combined $12 million to your mother's presidential campaigns. Chelsea attempts recovery, her political DNA fighting for survival. Congresswoman, these documents could be fabricated. Could be? Jasmine's eyebrows rise with practiced incredulity. These are bank records subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee, authenticated by the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, verified by Cayman National Bank's Compliance Department. She produces a second document. The paper crinkles in the studio's dead silence. This is a signed affidavit from Jennifer Morrison, former Clinton Foundation Chief Financial Officer, dated 8 days ago. Jasmine's voice carries the weight of absolute certainty. She states, and I quote, I was instructed by Chelsea Clinton to approve transfers totaling $82.7 million to offshore accounts controlled by family business associates. When I raised concerns about legal compliance, I was told these transactions were approved at the highest levels and that my continued employment depended on processing them without question. The studio audience gasps audibly. A woman in the front row covers her mouth with both hands. The veteran from earlier leans back in his seat, shaking his head in disgust. Live polling shows Jasmine leading 67% to 31%. The gap widens as she speaks. Chelsea's desperation becomes palpable. Jennifer Morrison was terminated for cause. She's clearly seeking revenge. Was she terminated before or after she discovered your shell companies? Jasmine doesn't wait for an answer, because according to her personnel file, which I also have, she was Employee of the Year in 2022. Glowing performance reviews, no disciplinary actions. Then suddenly, 3 weeks after questioning these transfers, she's terminated for restructuring purposes. Receipts. Delivered trends alongside # collapse and #expose. Memes flood social media faster than human moderators can track them. Screenshots of Chelsea's shocked expression become instant viral content with captions like, "When the receipts arrive," and POV, "You got caught." Chat streams across multiple platforms erupt with variations of, "She brought receipts," and "This is insane," and "Jasmine is ending her." Chelsea makes one final attempt at deflection, her voice now carrying a desperate edge. The Clinton Foundation has undergone independent audits. "By Morrison Singer Associates," Jasmine interrupts smoothly. "The same firm that your family pays $300,000 annually for consulting services. Would you call that independent?" The contradiction hangs in the air like smoke from a political funeral pyre. Jake Tapper sits frozen, his journalist instincts warring with the magnitude of what he's witnessing. This isn't just a debate anymore. It's a public execution of a political legacy conducted with surgical precision and documented evidence. Jasmine continues with relentless calm. "The $82 million was supposed to fund HIV prevention programs in 7 African nations. Children are dying, Chelsea, while your family business partners purchase Manhattan penthouses and Hamptons estates." The emotional crescendo builds. Several audience members begin applauding spontaneously. The applause spreads like wildfire through the studio. First a few scattered claps, then sustained approval that threatens to overwhelm the broadcast's audio levels. Chelsea Clinton, daughter of presidents, Harvard graduate, Rhodes Scholar, sits in stunned silence as her carefully constructed public image implodes on live television. Her legacy, decades of charitable work, political ambitions, inherited respect, collapses in real time before an audience that refuses to look away from the wreckage. But the fallout wouldn't be contained to the studio. What happened next stunned the nation. Before Jake Tapper can even call for a commercial break, the digital universe explodes. Chelsea collapses rockets to #1 trending worldwide, accumulating 4.7 million mentions in 20 minutes. TikTok's algorithm can't process the volume fast enough. Videos with the hashtag #JasmineExpose receive 2 million views before creators can even add captions. Instagram stories, featuring screenshots of Chelsea's stunned expression, flood feeds across every demographic. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweets within 8 minutes. "This is what accountability looks like. Thank you at Rep. Jasmine Crockett for demanding answers that powerful people don't want to give. #receipts delivered." The tweet receives 340,000 retweets in the first hour. Bernie Sanders follows 30 minutes later. "When millionaires steal from programs meant to help the world's poorest people, there must be consequences. The American people deserve leaders who fight for justice, not family dynasties that protect their own wealth." Cable news networks abandon their scheduled programming. MSNBC extends debate coverage for 2 additional hours. Fox News gleefully replays Jasmine's document reveals in slow motion. CNN's panel of political analysts sits speechless for 47 seconds of dead air, unprecedented in cable news history. Anderson Cooper breaks the silence. "I've covered politics for 25 years, and I've never witnessed a more complete political demolition in real time." The reactions cascade across Hollywood and beyond. Mark Ruffalo posts a clip of Jasmine's evidence presentation with the caption, "This is what speaking truth to power looks like." Ava DuVernay shares the moment with fire emojis. Lin-Manuel Miranda tweets a single word, "receipts." Conservative influencers celebrate with equal enthusiasm. Candace Owens posts, "When the truth comes out, party lines don't matter. Corruption is corruption." The bipartisan nature of the reaction amplifies the story's reach exponentially. International media scrambles to contextualize the collapse. BBC News leads with, "American political dynasty faces existential crisis." Le Monde headline reads, "La chute de Clinton," above footage of Chelsea's stunned silence. Al Jazeera interviews political scientists about the implications for American institutional trust. Protests organize themselves through social media with spontaneous efficiency. Within 6 hours, demonstrators gather outside Clinton Foundation headquarters in Manhattan. Signs read, "Where's our $82 million?" and "Betrayed donors demand answers." The crowd includes former foundation supporters holding canceled donation receipts. Maria Gonzalez, the Phoenix schoolteacher who donated monthly for 3 years, gives an emotional interview to Univision. "I trusted them with my children's lunch money," she repeats, tears streaming. "I believed I was helping children like mine in Guatemala. Instead, I was funding someone else's luxury lifestyle." The clip goes viral across Spanish-language social media, generating outrage in Latino communities nationwide. Dorothy Jefferson, the elderly woman whose pension was stolen years ago, watches the debate footage from her Baltimore nursing home. Local news interviews her about Jasmine's victory. "That young lady did what nobody else had the courage to do," she says, her voice strong despite her frail appearance. "She stood up for people like me who got forgotten by folks who were supposed to help us." Op-eds flood major newspapers overnight. The Washington Post runs 3 separate pieces analyzing the scandal's implications. The New York Times editorial board calls for immediate federal investigation. Even traditionally Clinton-friendly outlets like The Nation publish scathing analyses of foundation governance failures. Grassroots campaigns emerge organically. "Donors deserve" answers becomes a rallying cry for foundation contributors demanding transparency. Jasmine, for president, gains traction among progressive activists inspired by her fearless confrontation of power. Donation pages supporting Jasmine's congressional campaigns crash from traffic volume. Foundation board members begin resignating en masse. 3 resign within 12 hours, citing strategic differences. Major donors quietly suspend future contributions. The foundation's credit rating faces immediate review by Moody's. Chelsea's political future evaporates overnight. Democratic operatives who once whispered about her inevitable Senate campaign now discuss damage control strategies. "She's radioactive," one longtime Clinton ally admits anonymously to Politico. "This isn't survivable." International Clinton Global Initiative partners distance themselves publicly. Universities rescind speaking invitations. Corporate sponsors pull funding from foundation events. As the world debated Chelsea's future, Jasmine's message was just beginning to resonate far beyond the screen. 3 days after the debate, Jasmine Crockett stands before a packed auditorium at Howard University, her voice carrying the weight of a nation's awakening. The room overflows with students, activists, and ordinary citizens who traveled from across the country to hear her speak. "This was never about Chelsea Clinton," Jasmine begins, her words cutting through the electric atmosphere. "This was about something much bigger than one person, one family, or one foundation. This was about the choice we face as Americans, between accountability and complicity, between truth and comfortable lies." The audience leans forward, hanging on every word. "For too long, we've accepted that some people are simply above the rules that govern the rest of us. We've been told the truth. That questioning power is divisive, that demanding transparency is unrealistic, that expecting honesty from our leaders is naive." Her voice rises with conviction. "But I'm here to tell you that those days are over." Across the nation, ordinary Americans echo her message in coffee shops and community centers, in churches and union halls. In Detroit, auto worker Marcus Johnson tells his local news station, "Jasmine showed us we don't have to accept corruption just because it comes with a famous name. We deserve better and we can demand better." In Phoenix, Maria Gonzalez organizes other betrayed foundation donors. "We trusted them with our hopes," she says, addressing a gathering of 50 contributors. "Now we know that trust has power, the power to demand truth, the power to expect more from the people who ask for our faith." In Baltimore, Dorothy Jefferson watches Jasmine's speech from her nursing home, nodding with recognition. "That's what courage looks like," she tells her visiting granddaughter. "Standing up when it matters, even when it's hard." Jasmine continues her address. "The documents I presented weren't just evidence of financial misconduct. They were proof that when we demand answers, when we refuse to be silenced, when we organize around truth instead of partisan loyalty, we can move mountains." The Howard Auditorium erupts in applause, but Jasmine raises her hand for silence. This moment belongs to every American who's ever felt powerless against systems designed to protect the privileged. Every teacher who's watched school funding disappear into administrative overhead. Every veteran who's fought bureaucracy for earned benefits. Every family who's discovered that charitable donations lined executive pockets instead of helping communities. Her voice softens but gains intensity. Justice isn't a partisan issue. Dignity isn't a political position. Truth doesn't belong to any party. It belongs to all of us. Students in the audience begin standing, their faces reflecting recognition and hope. The applause builds like thunder, spreading through the auditorium in waves. The Clinton Foundation scandal taught us something precious. That no name is too powerful. No legacy too protected, no institution too established to escape accountability when the American people demand it. Jasmine's eyes shine with conviction. But this victory only matters if it becomes the beginning, not the end. The emotional crescendo reaches its peak as Jasmine delivers her closing challenge. If one voice speaking truth can topple a dynasty, imagine what all of us can do together. Imagine the corruption we can expose, the justice we can demand, the America we can build when we choose courage over comfort, truth over convenience, service over privilege. The standing ovation lasts 4 minutes. Students chant "Truth to Power," while activists wave signs reading "Accountability for All." The energy is infectious, transformative, revolutionary. In living rooms across America, families watch the speech together, parents explaining to children that this is what democracy looks like when it works, that this is how change happens, not through violence or hatred, but through courage, evidence, and unwavering commitment to truth. But for those watching, the movement had just begun. Tonight, you witnessed history unfold in real time. Jasmine Crockett didn't just expose $82 million in missing charity funds. She demonstrated that truth still has power in American politics. When she opened that manila folder and produced those bank records, she proved that no legacy is too protected, no dynasty too established to escape accountability. Chelsea Clinton's collapse wasn't just the end of one political career. It was the death of an era where powerful families could operate above the rules that govern everyone else. Her stunned silence in that CNN studio represented something deeper, the moment when privilege finally met its match in preparation, when inherited power crumbled before earned authority. But this story isn't over. It's just beginning. Jasmine's victory belongs to every American who's ever felt powerless against corruption, who's ever wondered if their voice matters, who's ever believed that truth should triumph over wealth. Her courage in that debate wasn't just hers. It was ours, collectively channeled through someone brave enough to speak when it mattered most. The question now is, what will you do with this inspiration? Don't just watch democracy happen, be democracy. Research your local politicians' financial disclosures. Demand transparency from organizations that ask for your donations. Question authority in your community, your workplace, your daily life. Be the voice for accountability that Jasmine was on that stage. If this story moved you, share it. Let your friends, your family, your networks know that corruption has consequences when citizens refuse to stay silent. Subscribe to stay connected with stories of courage triumphing over power. Join the conversation that's reshaping American politics one truth at a time. The camera pulls back from that debate stage, but the energy Jasmine unleashed continues rippling across a nation hungry for leaders who serve truth over self-interest. Somewhere tonight, another ordinary person is finding extraordinary courage, preparing to speak truth to power. The movement has just begun, and you're part of it.